Let's talk some black and gold. There's a lot of Saints buzz today based on a couple of different reports, and it all revolves around the quarterback spot. So let's get into it, and let's be clear as well. This is now the most interesting piece to the Saints puzzle. We know that the executive team has been kept in place. We know they've got a new head coach. He's filled out his staff. Now it comes to the roster, and the roster starts at quarterback. So this is the next frontier for the Saints in their rebuild, reboot, new era, whatever you want to call it. This is next. And let's start with Nick Underhill from New Orleans Football, who is reporting from the Combine and has essentially said, like, the Saints are not going to move on from Derek Carr. As he tweets out, sounds like the Saints plan to keep Derek Carr at quarterback. Mickey Loomis said they feel like they've got a QB they can win with, and Kellen Moore said the team feels fortunate to have Carr. Moore and Carr have met. Sounds like it went well. Still has some contract stuff to figure out. That obviously is revolving around the money that Derek Carr is owed, his cap hit, the dead money, the year, like all of that has to be worked around. First things first. I talk about this all the time. I don't really care what you say in a press conference because clearly Mickey Loomis is not going to go to the podium or speak to someone on the record when he knows it's going to get published and say, yeah, Carr, we signed him, Dennis wanted him, and he's never been that good. He hadn't been that good for us. I don't think we can win with him, so we're trying to get rid of him, and I think we can get Justin Fields, so we'll see if it works out. He's not going to say that. So saying that you're fortunate to have Carr and that he and the coach have met and things went well and all that's well and good, it's really the only thing you can say. So I'm not questioning Nick's reporting at all. He's brilliant at his job. I'm just saying if things are, in fact, looking a different direction, you're never going to get that on the record at this point in the calendar. So take that with one grain of salt. The Saints may move forward with Derek Carr, and they may try to figure out the cap gymnastics to do that, and they may think that that's the best way to try to win games this year. But ESPN wrote a story today. Seth Walder predicted Justin Fields to be the Saints quarterback in 2025. Now, keep in mind, this is directly contradictory to Nick Underhill, but that's the beauty of the talk radio program. We can discuss both. Walden writes, Carr is owed a fully guaranteed $10 million roster bonus and a non-guaranteed $30 million salary. The former, that $10 million, is a sunk cost for the Saints. The latter can and absolutely should be saved. Holding Carr's $30 million salary on the cap until June 1, which is what the Saints will have to do even if they designated him as a post-June 1 release, will be a challenge. I've seen some potential paths proposed. They might be able to get there via salary restructures thanks to a higher than expected 2025 salary cap, or they could ask Derek Carr to reduce his 2025 salary, knowing he will be cut anyway. That might cost something, though. Assuming he can avoid paying that $30 million to Carr, New Orleans ought to embrace a full rebuild, which means paying players with future upside. Fields and a rookie could make sense in that context. There's still a possibility Fields can kick his level of play up a notch, and if not, a mid-round rookie can get some run. My only hesitation is that even if Fields might be too expensive for the Saints given how rough their salary cap, even Fields might be too expensive for the Saints given how rough their salary cap situation is. So that's a lot to unpack there. But essentially, Nick is reporting Saints feel like there's not a rebuild coming. They still want to be competitive. He did tweet out that Mickey Loomis said they want to be more aggressive in free agency than they were this past year, and that Derek Carr is their guy. And then you've got Waldron who comes on and says they got to cut Carr. They're going to eat the $10 million. Hopefully they can spread the $30 million out, figure out a way to move on from that, take on Justin Fields at a slightly higher than normal backup salary, plug him as a starter, draft a quarterback, and move forward. I think there are flaws in all of that if you're talking about an ideal world. We probably shouldn't be talking an ideal world. We probably should be talking about a more realistic world, but let's go ahead and talk about an ideal world. An ideal world, you get a young, cheap quarterback. Derek Carr is neither of those. He's not a super expensive quarterback because he's not a super elite quarterback, but he's not cheap. Justin Fields has a chance to be cheap. And if you can get Justin Fields on some sort of one-year deal and something clicks with Kellen Moore and Justin Fields, you might have something really good. the odds are Justin Fields would come to New Orleans in a subpar situation like he had in Chicago, and then the weird deal in Pittsburgh where he's splitting time with Russell Wilson, and he won't be that good, and then you just move on. But I'm okay grabbing a lottery ticket at quarterback every once in a while. You want to draft Spencer Rattler right after Jake Haener? I'm fine with it. You want to take Justin Fields on a fairly cheap, real cheap compared to NFL starting quarterback deals while you're moving on from Derek Carr? I'm okay with it because there's a chance it could hit. You know what's not going to hit? Derek Carr's not going to hit. Derek Carr is not going to massively elevate his level of play. Now, I talked about him yesterday and said he's not terrible. He's not terrible, but he's not good enough for the Saints' current roster to elevate. He's just not. And I don't think, despite what Mickey Loomis has to say, that the Saints have enough salary cap flexibility to supplement the roster to an extent that they reach another level with Derek Carr. Now, what Justin Fields could offer, if you could get him to New Orleans, is a young quarterback that even though you might have to pay him significantly if he does hit, he's got some years to play for you, and you can spread the deal out. You can't spread anything out with Derek Carr. He's old. So this is attractive in a number of ways if you can make it work. The question is, can they make it work? But that question can only be answered if you decide that you're moving on from Derek Carr, and that decision appears like is not going to be made based on Nick's reporting. It's like 5 different dominoes that have to happen. And the first one that has to fall is the Saints deciding to move on from Derek Carr. If Derek Carr is not being moved on from, you don't talk about Justin Fields. You don't talk about the draft. None of those dominoes fall. You have your quarterback, and it sounds like the Saints want to just push off the dock from there. I think that is a big mistake. But you already know that. I was clinging, and still am to a degree, clinging to some hope that the New Orleans Saints have realized the error in their ways. That they realize that their situation right now stinks. Comparatively speaking, with the rest of the league, the age of your roster, the talent of your roster, the amount of games that you win, and your salary cap situation all jumbled together stinks. And if you can't realize that, there's no chance you can move forward. None. Zero. And I'm clinging to hope that they do realize that. And that's why they didn't spend a lot of money in this past offseason. And I hope they won't spend a ton of money this offseason. And I hope they move on from Derek Carr, even if it means eating into your cap for a player that's not going to be productive to you, because you know that the cap situation this year doesn't ultimately matter because you're not going to win and you need to shed more cash and you need to get out from under this avalanche of garbage debt. I'm hopeful they're realizing it. What they say at the microphone suggests they don't, but that's just words. I need to see actions. We'll see what they do in free agency. If they start adding 29-year-old players on 3-year deals, you'll know they haven't learned. If they take a couple of lower-level guys here and there on 1-year deals, even if they keep Derek Carr, I'll still cling to some hope. But ultimately, if they can make the decision to move on from the quarterback and try someone young who, even if they flop, is only on a short-term deal for a not significant amount of money and may just put you toward the top of next year's draft. This is an organization that has never once shown an appetite to do that. Not once. Still haven't. But I'm hopeful they may try. And it sounds like the folks at ESPN think there's a reasonable shot at that. Now, whether or not that's Justin Fields' agent trying to drum some things up, whether that's an editor that's just looking for clicks on the internet, I don't know. This is a time of year where you kind of just don't take much of anything as gospel. People are up there in Indianapolis. They're eating the shrimp cocktails at St. Elmo's. They're chatting. They're having bourbon on the rocks, and there's stuff flying around in the bar or the hotel lobby, and what's true, what's not, what do people really mean, what's leverage, what's smoke screen. You don't know. We'll know once this draft boils over and the free agency starts to slow down. But I'm clinging to hope that the Saints try to make a move that's not for the 2025 Saints. Every single time the Saints make a move, it feels like it's for that upcoming team. What was once a good idea now stinks. Don't do it. Don't restructure Carr to free up cap space for this year to go sign 30-year-old players who are past their prime and cost more than cost-effective, I use air quotes, players that you could get in the draft, that you could get as undrafted free agents. My hope is fleeting, but I still cling to just a little bit of it, that there might be a new leg turned over. And look, I'm looking at ESPN that thinks there's a possibility of it. Put me in the camp squarely that says Justin Fields is absolutely worth a chance, because if it doesn't work out, you don't lose anything. That's where I stand on this entire Saints situation. I want to know where you stand. You can check out our Saints content on YouTube, Hunt on Saints. Always appreciate comments on those YouTube streams as well. Crossed over the 3,000 subscriber mark earlier this week, so really appreciate you all for locking us in. Hunt on Saints on YouTube. You can also find that wherever you find your podcast. We appreciate your participation each and every day. Hey, it's Hunt. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.